Cars. Since the beginning, people wanted to put machine guns all over them and make them do battle, and video games were happy to oblige. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today we take a look at Retro Car Kombat.
Second Opinion Games.
Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Before this game, most battling in car games was just done on a regular race car track. But here they had a full-on battle system. There was only 4 maps here, and most of the time you just drove around as fast as you can, dumping your weapons, whatever you got, hoping to get a red shell. When you got a red shell, you were almost guaranteed to kill your opponent, unless they were saving a star for just said occasion, in which case then they would try to ram you and destroy your chances of winning. If you had a green turtle shell, most of the time you would just launch them off as fast as you could, or go in for an epic skill shot. Banana peels, just drop them wherever you can, and occasionally 2 people would have red shells at the same time, in which case you would say, meet me in the middle for a showdown, and then you'll see who could kill the other one first. Now, even though there are plenty of characters to choose from, you would always pick Peach or Yoshi because they had the fastest acceleration. If you picked one of the big people, where you will immediately be put at a massive disadvantage as their acceleration is kinda crap. Other Mario Kart games also had full-fledged battle modes, but for me, this is the one I turn to every time. Okay, I normally don't like to do emulation, but I absolutely love Battle Wheels on the Atari Lynx. Blown up, the screen looks kinda choppy. However, on the actual Lynx itself, it looks beautiful and runs perfect. Now, when you start up a game, you could customize it any way you want, down to if you just want to be on foot or not. And it reminds me of that section of Rick and Morty where they put guys up against cars and then they laugh because the cars always win. Because it's so true. You just get ran over in a second. If you happen to choose to be on a car, well, you could switch back and forth between machine guns and missiles and flamethrowers that shoot out the sides, or landmines that drop out behind you. If you're driving backwards, you could drop landmines as you're being chased, in which case you'll blow up other cars. You could also switch to the map mode to try and figure out what your best course of action is. I like trying to circle behind people, or if I see that multiple people are colluding into one giant pile, I could just scurry around the outside edges and launch missiles into them, almost guaranteeing a win. And of course, when your car starts to blow up, you could always jump out and be on foot, but then you're probably just going to be ran over really fast. At least you know that you don't have to die with your car, and this is a great handheld experience if you're in for some serious car combat. The Twisted Metal series is pretty much the game that everyone thinks of when they think of cars fighting to the death. And you're entered into a tournament where you could earn a wish from the enemy Calypso if you happen to win. However, it's like a monkey paw situation. Whatever you wish for, chances are it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. For if you play as Mr. Grimm, you'll wish for the guy's soul, in which case then he'll stomp on your face, killing you. So no matter if you win or lose, you're always gonna lose. And I really like Twisted Metal too. It was always my favorite, probably because of the environments. You could be all around the world, even be on the Eiffel Tower itself and running down French people in the streets. You could also be in California, running down Californians in the streets. No matter where you are, even if you're in Antarctica, you could also run down people in the Arctic. Yeah, running down people is one of the best parts of this game, and the graphics might look horrible on the PS1, but the gameplay is awesome. Your weapons feel very satisfying, and you even have special moves, like if you hit left, right, up while you're driving, you fire an ice beam Sub-Zero style. Then you can just pull up next to someone and unload all of your freaking ordnance on them, blowing them into pieces. It's really hard to top Twisted Metal 2. On the PlayStation 2, we got Twisted Metal Head-On Extra Twisted Edition. Now, the original Twisted Metal Head-On was on the PlayStation Portable, and its biggest problem was it was on the PlayStation Portable. So they brought it to the PlayStation 2, where they could actually move some freaking copies, because this is a pretty darn good Car Kombat game. Is it as good as Twisted Metal 2? Well, probably not. One of my problems with it is the mini-games. Yeah, they're here, and I like them a lot, but why do they shove them in the middle of the level? It totally breaks up your flow. If you happen to beat the mini-games, well, then you could get an extra life. Also, the weapons don't seem to do the same damage that they did in previous Twisted Metal games, meaning that the levels go on and on for way too long. There's still plenty to explore here, and lots of little nooks and crannies and fun stuff around every corner. If you love good Car Kombat games, well, then this is really cool. And if you have a PlayStation Portable, I strongly recommend picking up Twisted Metal Head-On. If you have a PlayStation 2, well, keep playing Black, and when you get bored of it, then switch to this. Either way, you can't go wrong. What's up with the name Black in Car Kombat games? You know, I also have Mario Kart Black. Yeah, you have to mod your Nintendo Wii to play it, and for the most part, it's just a palette swap of the original Mario Kart Wii. Everything's made a little bit darker, but they do add some things in here for fun. And when you go into your cups, you might see paper cup or plastic cup or 2 cups. This is kind of funny. And when you jump into a match, the music is totally different as well, with now licensed music. Well, if they actually paid the licensing fees. We all know that they didn't. Mario here looks a little bit different, but sadly, Princess Peach and Rosalina still have all of their clothes on. The game plays exactly like the original Mario Kart. I just kind of wanted to talk about it because it's Mario Kart Black, and I thought that was kind of funny. And when you win, it plays We Are the Champions by Queen. Too cool. If you were a Nintendo gamer, chances are you played Vigilante 8 on the Nintendo 64. And one thing that really confused me was the name, Vigilante 8. I mean, where was Vigilante 1 through 7? And I always thought that I missed something. This was also kind of a long-running series on the computer called Interstate 76. This is why all of the characters and cars come from the 70s and earlier, instead of being modern cars. And at first glance, it's your normal Car Kombat game, but there is some missions within the levels, so there might be briefcases that you might find or other things to go on. And the Nintendo 64 Vigilante 8 had a level that the PlayStation version did not have. Now, most of the time, your steering is kind of bad. It doesn't have that Nintendo fog everywhere, thank God. And it does look pretty darn good for an N64 game. The controls are somewhat decent, but the action feels slower because you tend to oversteer quite a bit. So instead, you would just kind of creep up on your opponents and then unleash every bit of ammo you have on them, and then move on. Now, the first game was only 2 players battling it out, with some other opponents driving around controlled by the computer, but in the second game, they added up to 4-player multiplayer, which is also on the Nintendo 64. But I'd rather show you the Dreamcast version as well, and just to show you how much they cleaned up the game, let's do a slow motion wipe over to the Dreamcast version. Vigilante 8 Second Offense on the Dreamcast. It looks a heck of a lot better than the Nintendo 64 version. The controls are a little bit worse, but where this game supersedes its predecessor is that the environments feel far more alive. If you happen to be at, for example, a Louisiana swamp, well, there could be an alligator chasing you. You could spring a trap to trap yourself, or maybe trap the alligator in general because your weapons won't seem to kill these giant crocs. And when you're going down the slopes, well, your car kind of stinks unless you pick up the ice skis. If you pick up some hover pods around Area 51, well, when you fire your shots, you're going to fly all over the place and maybe not be able to hit anything at all. The missions this time around are much more fleshed out, and there are plenty things to do. Chances are you're not going to figure them out the first time around, and you're going to be almost forced to buy a guidebook if you really want to accomplish these missions, but most people just love battling their friends, which is what this game was, a party game to battle your friends. But something about the game always felt wrong. Maybe it was the controls being a little wonky, or the lack of a real time limit and sense of urgency. Man, maybe it was the worlds. They were just so big and open to explore, I spent more time doing that than hunting down my prey. And that's why sometimes I went to this game. Demolition Racer, No Exit, also for the Dreamcast. Now at first glance, this is a racing game, and when I first started playing it, I got first place in the race and last place in score. You see, this is a somewhat interesting game where you don't want to pick the fastest character. Matter of fact, that would actually hurt your chances of winning here. You want to pick the slowest character with the most armor, because this is all about Demolition Derby, and you have to smash into everyone. Most of the time, the person that gets in first place in the race actually comes in like 3rd or 4th or maybe even 11th place in the actual finishing of the totals. There are tons of cars here, and the name of the game is smashing everything in sight. A lot of times, in order to get the top score, you would have to smash through your way to the top, slam on the brakes, let everyone pass you, and then smash your way to the top all over again. But it's not that simple because you have a health bar. And if you smash too much stuff, well, then you're gonna disqualify yourself from the race. Not only do you have to try to win for the score multiplier, but you also have to do as much damage as you possibly can. This has you walking a very thin line between disqualifying yourself and getting the top score, and that's why this racing game is definitely all about the car combat. But if I'm racing and I want to do some serious car combat at the same time, I'm going to turn to Speed Racer on the Nintendo Wii. Now, if you don't think this is car combat, well, they have something here called Car Fu. And yes, there is waggle controls. If you shift the Wiimote to the side, though, you could smash into an opponent. Now, there are allies and there are villains, and you want to make sure you take out the bad guys. If you take out the good guys, well, chances are they'll turn against you and become far more aggressive. If you could fill up your boost meter without taking too much damage, well, then you could do an ultimate boost up to 4 times, and then everything goes psychedelic and you end up winning. But there are some rubber banding AI here, so make sure you do it at the very end of the match in order to claim your top prize. If you happen to get lots of damage, you could sacrifice your boost for some health, so there's also a balance here. The cars control pretty good. Occasionally you will spin around backwards though, and then it's almost impossible to get turned back around, but overall this is one of the best looking racing games on the Nintendo Wii, and it's great for some car fu. So I hoped you really liked this look at all of these car combat games. Battle Wheels is terrific, Mario Kart is a no-brainer, and Twisted Metal 2 might just be the best car combat game of all times. But I absolutely love every one of these games. And of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
I slip into your cream like a monkey into trousers!
I need to start paying attention.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I want to know what your favorite Car Kombat game is. Also, keep notice that I don't put any commercials in the middle of my videos like other YouTubers. I got a feeling that most people do this to make more money, and that's all they're really interested in, rather than the love of the game and bringing you guys these great games that I tend to do. So if you happen to enjoy my work, please leave me a comment and let me know what games you want me to cover in the future. I'm making huge lists and I cannot wait to hear from you. And until later, I will see you again, guys.